Hello, my name is Casey and I'm an executive digital media at the UWPM club here in the University of Waterloo, and I'm one of the podcast hosts for today's episode. I'm sitting with me today Prashant Bagga, who is one of the co-presidents of UWPM and a former product manager at Microsoft. So Prashant, please introduce yourself.
Thank you, Casey. So I just finished an 8-month internship at Microsoft. It was a beautiful experience, and I would love to share some of my experiences from there. Yeah.
Cool, awesome. So without further ado, we'll just kick off with a couple of questions so that you generally have a great understanding of both Prashant's experience at Microsoft as a PM, but also just the PM position in general, what he did there, the experiences and the skills he's gained, and some further advice to students who are still seeking their first ever PM internship or full-time position. So the first question I have for you, Prashant, it's a pretty general question, is whether or not you see a lot of satisfaction from your first PM position compared to, let's say, like a startup where you might have similar roles in terms of stakeholders, the amount of work you do, but how satisfied and how happy are you from your first experience at Microsoft?
I'm really satisfied. I'm really happy because I took a leap of faith. I actually went above and took on a really big project that turned out to be my highlight. And yeah, if I wouldn't have taken that, I would have got into the same consensus of that, you go into a large organization, you are not given a lot of responsibilities, and you think that, I don't think I learned a lot. So what I thought was, let me go back. When I started at Microsoft, the first month, I was super happy. I was really happy because obviously a dream come true. I've been struggling for my first 2 years. I was an international student and this was a big break. First month, I enjoyed. Then I got my first project. A little bit slowly, gradually I started building on it. I started talking to a lot of people, starting to understand the company culture itself. And I kind of went really slow, but I did my first project. I completed it in 4 months. I was happy. Everybody was happy. And then I was like, now I want to do something exciting, something challenging. What I did was, I had actually built a relationship with the Surface lead. Mm-hmm. Surface is the Microsoft's hardware business, and I kind of had a first conversation with him in the initial days. I found him a really interesting person, a person I looked up to, and I was like, at this point, I want to try working with him. He was in a completely different team. I was in a completely different team, and I was thinking that, what if I just email him? Let's see where this goes. I remember having shower that particular morning and thinking about what should I write in that email, and I think about this entire template that, all right, let me write this. Is there an initiative that you really want to bring to life? I'm like, all right, this is a good line. Let's go to the office, write down an email and send him. I sent him that email, and 4 days later, he actually responded. And he was like, Prashant, I love this. And he was like, it's not a flashy problem, but a critical one for sure. And I think you might be able to help us with it. I was super happy. Next day, we meet up, and he tells me that, Prashant, this is a $25 million problem for Microsoft Surface business. I was super excited. Mm-hmm. So exactly going back to your question, was that satisfying? At that point, I was thinking about it, that, hey, for the last 4 months, I have worked on some cool things. I have been working at Microsoft. I'm happy. But now this will give me satisfaction. Accomplishing, just having that accomplishment that, hey, I worked on something really big. That's going to be super cool. I was super excited. I was like, all right, I just got 2 more months to go from now. And I will focus only on this one thing. And that's when I started reaching out to a lot of people. Again, Surface was a new business for me. I didn't know anything, so I started reaching out to a lot of people. I started understanding the business. I started understanding all the frustrations behind why this problem hasn't got solved for more than a year now. And that's when one day, through luck, I found something. I proposed an entire execution strategy, a proactive plan, and just 2 days before me leaving Microsoft, it got approved. And that was satisfying.
No, that's awesome. The fact that just a couple days before you left the job to go back to university, and it got approved, that probably felt like you made a large positive impact, right? Right before you left, you were perhaps like you were a little bit unsure of whether or not it would be approved before you left, so you might. So obviously that's a big difference there. I actually wanted to go just a little bit back in time to actually ask you how you got into the product management role in Microsoft in the first place. I'm sure you've probably talked about that a lot. If you don't follow Prashant on LinkedIn, guys, do follow him because he does. He posts weekly, I believe, or daily about his experiences from Microsoft and what he's going through now. So, and I believe that you actually did talk about that before, about how you got into product management at Microsoft, but just do the podcast again because obviously I do want to hear about it as well.
Right.
Take it away. I really want to know how you got into the PM position.
Definitely. Now, what I really think is that, talk about that one really cool incident that happened that got me to Microsoft. I actually want to go a little bit back. So, let me start from the very beginning. When I came to Canada, I had no idea what I wanted to do. And that's the biggest reason why I chose nanotechnology, because it will just give me exposure to every single field, bio, math, chemistry, every single thing. And that's when, I had my first internship after 8 months, and I don't know why I had this idea that, hey, Waterloo is known for co-ops, right? Everybody does co-op, right? I will also get a co-op. It's easy, right? I thought in that way, getting an internship is easy, but it isn't. You can get an easy job as a researcher for professor. Maybe you can work for him for free. That's the general trend that goes on nanotechnology. But getting a good job where you can actually feel challenged, which is actually exciting, it's a little bit difficult, and you need to really work for it. So for my first co-op, I just didn't know what I wanted to do. And again, I faced a lot of rejections from all the applications in Waterloo Works, which is our job portal. And that's when I realized that, all right, I need to do something different. What I did was I started designing all those cold emails and just blasted cold emails to every single startup in Velocity, which is our startup incubator. And that's how Curiado, one of the startups, it's a health startup, they responded back. They were like, Prashant, you are on time. We are looking to hire interns. And I was like, all right, this is it. I went there. I got into that conversation. We started meeting up. They kind of liked me, not exactly at that point, but obviously I was like a 17-year-old kid. And that's when they said that, all right, so you are coming here from tomorrow. And for a very minimal wage, I started working over there for first 3 to 4 months. I was happy. I was working as an R&D engineer. I didn't expect myself to directly land into a big company and all. So that was good. I was like, all right, second one has to be bigger. That was it. So first internship, I work as an R&D engineer. For second co-op now, I really wanted to work as a web developer. Why? Because during my first co-op, I actually started a blog, and that was a side thing. And during while doing all of that, I really found that okay, I love to build beautiful things. I love to see beautiful things. So web development is the way to go. I want to create websites and all. So again, something unfortunate happened. I became really sick right during the interviews period. And I was bedridden for more than a month. I missed my lectures. I missed everything. I directly come to school and I'm like, all right, I'm in the middle of preparing for final exams, finding a job. I don't know what to do. So because of all of this, what happens is that the entire month of January, the first month when I should be actually working, I was unemployed. And that was January 2018. That was the time when I was super depressed. I went into that entire reflection time that, hey, what I have been doing wrong over here? Why even my first co-op was unpaid? Okay, that's okay. But what's happening now? Now it's nearly impossible to get a paid internship. And I always had these standards that I don't want to work for an hourly wage where I'm not actually building that building skills,
right,
where I'm not actually helping my future self. I don't want to work on something where I just go show up, I do some very stupid things, and then I'm like, all right, my day is done. I always wanted to look into what's exciting for me in the future. Thinking about all of that, I'm like, yeah, I know what I'm doing wrong. I'm always late in the game. I do not know. I think of applying to jobs as an assignment. That assignment is due tomorrow. Start working on your resume today. Start working on cover letter today and submit. But no, building a resume, building a cover letter, you should put a lot of effort into it, because no matter what, you can think that how can people judge me from one piece of paper, but still that is your way into the door.
Yes.
So you still have to work on it. So that's these kind of things. I started reflecting on all of that, and one really cool thing happened. I started binge watching Gary Vaynerchuk. Everybody should know him. If you don't, please follow him, Gary V. He's the thing. And I used to binge watch his videos. In one of his videos, he said this one line, and listen to this carefully. He said, everything's that happening to you right now, it's all your fault. And that's it. After I heard this, I'm like, all right, that helps me in two ways. Number one, when I hear that, it gives me total responsibility that, hey, you cannot play the blame game. I cannot blame the system. I cannot blame my program. I cannot blame why would I blame my parents? But everybody, I cannot blame anybody. It's all me. I know where I was wrong. I started applying 1 month ago and all of that. So it's all me. Be early in the game. Number two, it gives you accountability that, hey, you can choose to be happy right now. If you want, choose to be happy. Just forget about all the things that happen, all the bad things that are happening with you. And that was a really good phase. I also during that time I searched on Google that, all right, now, what is the highest paying job in the world? Google said data scientist. And I'm like, all right, so I'm becoming a data scientist now. Now I'm taking full responsibility. I'm going to work every single day. So along with that, that was January. January ended. I again sent out cold emails. I worked as a web developer at a startup incubator in Brampton. And now for those 3 months, it was super cool, because for those 3 months, during the weekdays, I would work as a web developer. During the weekends, again, I sent cold emails and got a R&D internship, or a gig at another nanotechnology startup in Velocity. Super cool. After doing that all week, I would come back home and now study for data science, machine learning, take on all the bunch of free courses because I didn't have any money. So I would just start binging all the free courses, Coursera, Udacity, Udemy, MIT OpenCourseWare, Harvard. You just find all these gems out there, right? There's so much free stuff, free and actual valuable stuff. So once that particular thing ended, I was like, hey, I think I spent a lot of time. I think I'm super prepared now to get into something. Now, this was summer 2018. I was coming back to school, this time all fresh, this time with a good perspective. I started the UW Blockchain Club along with my good friend. I am part of UW Side Project Club. I, again, keep on working on my data science things. I take on a challenge from CUTC, if you know that. It was a really cool conference, Canadian Undergraduate Technology Conference. That's where they had Azure Machine Learning Challenge. And that's when I was exposed to Azure for the first time. In that challenge, I after competing, I stood 5th or 6th. And I was really happy with myself. Looking at the kind of people I was competing with, I'm like, hey, I learned all this in just 3 months, and I just stood 5th or 6th. I'm really happy with it. I also got a really good understanding that how you should work on these kind of hackathons in a really pressured environments and all. That was super cool. Now, there's just so many things I did during that term. And now again, what basically I did was, now my goal was simple. My first and second internships, I worked for free. So for the third one, my goal was simple, that hey, This time, I have to work for a company that if I tell somebody, I don't have to explain what that company does. That was it. And I was like, how can I easily get that? How can I optimize for that goal? So what I did was, I studied nanotechnology. And I was like, all right, for my third goal, I want to try some research. So I again come on my cold emailing thing. I send out cold emails to every single Ivy League professor in nanotechnology or related field, and I tell them that, hey, I'll work for you for free. And that's how, in like 2 days, a professor in MIT, he responded to me. He said that Prashant, I cannot remember exactly what he said, but I used to remember. I used to tell people that exact line what he said because that was really cool. And he was like, indeed, Prashant, we are hiring for interns in fall 2018 and you are welcome, or something like that. And I was super happy. I was like, wow, this is so cool. So by the time it was July 2018, I was all set. I was like, I'm looking for housing in Boston. I had my offer letter from MIT. I'm showing everybody that PDF document, like that's signed by MIT and all. I was super happy. But then Microsoft drops this hackathon. Microsoft comes to our campus. They have this hackathon called Discover Azure with Microsoft Bootcamp. And the winner of this hackathon would get an interview. That was exciting. And what happens now is I go to that first event, first workshop they host. I sit over there and there is a Azure lead who's asking some questions about technology, about data science, about machine learning. And I see that nobody over there is responding. Like, not a lot of people actually know the answers, but I knew that. And somewhere my confidence level increased. I'm like, hey, there is a high probability that I can actually win this. And again, the prize was big. The prize was an interview with Microsoft. I could get an internship with Microsoft and all of that, right? So within the next 1 month, when I should be actually preparing for my final exams, I completely shut myself down on everything, but just sit in my residence, grab my burrito, and spend that entire day binging on tutorials on Azure and everything. And I worked with my team. We decided that we were going to build a chatbot. I was super happy. I was like, but I don't know how to do it, because in my team I had one business guy who was really good, and then we didn't have a software developer. I was like, I want to build this. So I had to learn all those skills, and I started understanding all the code. I started installing downloading all those apps and all those. I don't even remember what that now. And what happened was, within that month, we built this chatbot. We win the hackathon. I get the interview and I get the internship. That all happened so quick.
Yeah.
I was so happy, dream has come true. So that's how I got into Microsoft. A very long answer.
No, but I feel like for a journey like yours, that's pretty extraordinary. That's not an ordinary path to product management, first and foremost, and that's not exactly like the type of typical answer you would expect, right? Typically, honestly, I think I'm pretty blown away from your journey too. First of all, because it seems like it's something that anyone can accomplish, but it's always the mindset, it's always the blame that you put, and it's always the effort, right? And I think that's the prime example of effort actually being put to use, and effort resulting in a really, really great the outcome. Obviously, Prashant did get the internship at Microsoft and he enjoyed his time there, but just the journey itself, I think for a lot of current students who are aspiring to be either data scientists, PMs, software developers, full-time developers, it's a common ground where they tend to blame a lot of the third parties out there who factor into their prime destination, factor into their process, the University of Waterloo, the companies. But at the end of the day, right, I think I think from just your journey alone, it explains and it stands out how a lot of the effort is all on you.
Right.
And I think that's the biggest thing ever. And you also mentioned that you did a couple internships with Velocity incubators. Sorry, you did the internships with incubators. One of them was with Velocity, right? I actually can relate because my first ever unpaid internship was also at Velocity. I did the same thing as you. I cold emailed some of the startups. I got one response out of all the 30 I cold emailed, and then he was like, "Yeah, Casey, come over for an interview, and then we'll." So what I did was I did a lot of business development for him. I found investors and sort of organized the business environment for them a little bit, and then I also did some R&D research.
Wow.
Pork blood. It was a kid. It was the company was essentially trying to create an artificial kidney, and so I worked a lot with the porcine blood there. It was really messy. I had to sign a couple forms ensuring that I was okay with working with blood and everything.
Okay.
Yeah, but it was fun. It was fun. But yeah, I feel like one of the core advices for all the first year students is, if you can't find that internship right away, right, it doesn't hurt to try cold emailing, and it doesn't hurt to try to use your network and try to find at least a job where you might not be paid a lot, you might not have the reputation that you wished you had. You would have to explain to people what your company actually did, right?
Right.
But at the end of the day, it would pay off eventually. You would enjoy the experience. You would go off to venture more onto other things, or you go even higher, or if you enjoyed your experience at the startup, you would stay there. And I think the next question people might ask is whether or not staying at the startup might be worth it, or how worth it is startup experience, right? Because you've worked at 2 startups, I believe, right? How worth it do you feel like your startup experience is, and how worth it do you think startup internship experience is in general for the vast majority of university students? Can you give a take?
Definitely. Today, for every goal I have, I always think about building my leverage. Building my leverage. What is leverage? Leverage simply means that having that advantage over every single person and using it at the right time, which is during your interview. During your interview, just think about the direct goal. That suppose you're in an interview with Microsoft, with Google and all of that, and you are competing with so many people beside you, and you are in the interview, and the interviewer asks you that, why should I choose you? What's your answer? And now whatever your answer is, backtrack it, now build that. Mm-hmm. And that's how I think. I really think that at that point, every single person, every single student in the line would have done a computer engineering program. Every single person might have been involved in one club, might have done some activity, but then what? Everything after that differentiates you. Mm-hmm. So how I think about it is simple. When I wanted to get into a big company, because back in India, when I was applying for Waterloo, when I was thinking about nanotechnology, I wasn't much about nanotechnology. My thought process was more about the co-ops, that hey, I'll be working when I would be 17. That's what I really want. And I have 4 internships. And I was looking, I could imagine the growth, that all right, first co-op, really small. Second co-op, medium. Third one, large. Last one, MNC. That should be the growth chart looking like. But that exactly didn't happen. First 2 are zeros, and then full blast Microsoft. So you know what? You have to be scrappy. If you think about if you want to get into software development, you have every single thing that you want to explore, go and explore. Now, if you think getting into a startup is an easier way because you get to work on a business objective, you get to work with a really good team, go for it. If you think taking on a side project, working on tutorials, taking on all those boot camps is the way to go for it. So it's all based on your situation at that moment, but definitely startup gives you a really good head start. Why? Because you're working for a business objective. These guys, they being at Curato, they didn't have a product. My first internship, Curato, they didn't have a product at that time. They were constantly pivoting. During my 4 months, they pivoted their product twice. That's a big thing.
That's
Why? Because number one, they are being scrappy for money. They want to optimize, because if they don't get in money, if they don't get in all those sponsorships, if they don't build all those relationships, they're gonna die. So they are moving really fast, and being involved in that kind of environment is super beneficial. So definitely advice, if you want to get into these kind of things, data science, machine learning, software development, product management, startup is the way to get a head start over every single person. That's how you differentiate.
I definitely agree. I think the startups, like the environment itself, the type of work, the versatile work you can do, right? And the amount of freedom you can have to do this work and how you want to do it, it's probably really important as opposed to like a more corporate company that gives you more set instructions, deadlines, and everything, right? I think it definitely gives you a great head start. And sorry, the last question I actually wanted to ask you, and I feel like this might be the most important one for both the listeners and for you and I, is whether or not are there any regrets you have going back, say that we traveled back in time to when you were still applying to the University of Waterloo and the co-op program, right? Is there anything that you felt like you would have done differently? For example, choose the university, choose the co-op program, choose the internships that you went and done, choose the Azure Bootcamp, all those Azure courses that you took and everything. Is there anything that you feel like you could have pivoted towards for a more streamlined success? Because I felt like with your success and my success personally is that we both sort of went on routes that went in zigzags, right? There were ups and downs. There were times when it was really sad. I felt like we weren't accomplishing the things that we really wanted to accomplish. We weren't getting the results despite the effort, and we were thinking, when is it finally going to end? When is it actually going to pay off, right? Is there anything where for future students who feel like they want their success to be more a linear regression streamline, where they are able to slowly and incrementally build upon the change and the journey that we thought that we would go through, but eventually we went through sort of zigzags and yeah. Is there anything looking back that you felt like you could have done differently?
Let me tell you something super cool in response to that question. Think about when you were in high school and you had like a high performer in your class. And by high performer, I mean that he's a nerd. And by that, I mean he's super intelligent. He scores 100% in everything. What would be your perspective? You would think that, oh yeah, this guy for sure is going to go to Google. This guy is for sure going to go to like big company and is going to land at a good position. You have no doubt. You are like, all right, he's super intelligent than me, and I rest my case there, right? And then I think about myself. That exactly a year ago, I was like really underconfident, if that's the word. I had no self-esteem. I had no money. Everything less, that was me exactly a year ago. And today, I'm happy. I am going towards a goal. I think my life is exciting. So seeing this kind of big transition, I'm like, hey, if everything would be perfect, then my life wouldn't be this exciting right now. I wouldn't be having this kind of mindset that, hey, go for those big ambitious goals. Why? Because if you think your life is going to be linear, it's not going to be exciting, because you always know that, oh, that's going to come, right? But how do you make your life exciting? You make your life exciting by having those big ambitious goals and being like, I know I'm going to fail, but I might learn something completely new out of it and maybe like grow even above it. Like right now, like at Microsoft, right now I think that, hey, I did so many things over there. Like I would be working on my full-time position where I would be like building the dashboard. I would be like working on a campus champion program where it would be like, giving out like funding to people and supporting all the students who were doing events on their campus. I was leading Azure Bootcamp program where we would like host workshops and hackathons all over Canada. And then I was also working on this $25 million project. Like so many different things. Exactly a year ago, I was like sitting in a room and like binge watching Gary Vaynerchuk. such a big difference, right? So even right now I think about it, like, what should I even take nanotechnology? Like today I go to classes and I'm like, I don't think I see myself as a nanotechnology engineer. And that's a good thing for me, because I kind of explored and now I'm seeing that it's not that like one day suddenly I come out and I'm like, oh, I don't like this, because I have now found what I love and I actually do things that I love and then I say it. And that's the thing, right? Like when you say you don't like something, you should be giving a good proof of what you like and if you are doing something to become better at what you like. And all those kind of things, like that's how I think. And I thought about it, like should I switch to management engineering or systems design or any other program? But then I think about it, like nanotechnology gives me such a cool co-op system or schedule, because my first 2 co-ops are 4 months and my last 2 co-ops are 8 months. I'm like, that is super cool. Why? Because if that wouldn't have existed, I couldn't have done 8 months at Microsoft. If that wouldn't have existed, I couldn't do my last 8 months at a big company, maybe a good company, and maybe get a really good foundation, build a really good relationship with people, build a really good network, and just improve myself as a good person. Because all the other programs, they just have 4 months. You constantly keep on switching. And I don't think I like that. So like, all those kind of things. Like everything has pros and cons. Should I go for nanotechnology? Right now, I just think of it as a challenge. That, hey, learning circuits, learning continuum mechanics, learning all these microfabrication like procedures and all is just a challenge for me. Complete it. Other than that, focus on your product management, focus on strategy, focus on meeting new people. Like I showed you the message, right? I connected with this person 4 months ago while I was in Microsoft, and I was just building a relationship. I was like, hey, congratulations, you got a job in Tesla. That is amazing. We started having a conversation. She shared some ideas from that she kind of found from my posts. She was like, I want to share something cool with you. And I was like, wow, this is amazing. A week ago, she became the senior manager at Tesla, and I wish her congratulations. Again, we had that conversation, and right now she messaged me that, Prashant, feel free to look at all the intern positions, and I can refer you. And that's the thing, right? Like you don't always go in thinking that everything's gonna be right. You think that everything's going to be right, but not everything turns out to be right. It's all about what you do after it, right? So I think I have taken really good advantage of the situation I was in, because even today I think that, hey, for my first internship, I should be early in the game. Like I should have applied, I should have really focused when the time was right. I should have built my resume really good and all of that. I should have joined some clubs during my first year and all. I think that might be a regret, but I don't think that's a regret, because if that wouldn't have happened, I would have improved my cold emailing skills, and today, as I just told you, I would have got my first booking on Airbnb Experience, my first booking for cold emailing. That's how I improve my cold emailing. Like I in every single thing I see those pros, that hey, choosing nanotechnology, I get this beautiful co-op program. No matter, I still don't love nanotechnology. Being late in the game during that time, don't worry, you became good at cold emailing. And all of these kind of things. For Microsoft, my biggest regret in January was that, hey, I don't think I got into a big company, but I don't think I'm having a bigger impact. So my regret was that I'm not choosing a big enough project. Because of that regret, I got to work on $25 million project. A big pro. If you are not put into those kind of stressful situations, if you just don't always think about doing something bigger, better, you don't improve. You don't find those cool things that might come up.
Right. I think that might be the perfect answer, honestly, because from obviously there's a lot of students out there, including perhaps you and I, right? And I actually started writing a Medium article about this. I started writing about what I call the immature decision, right? Where essentially we might have accidentally chosen the program that we wanted to enroll in university, and then future on, going into the present, we realize that this isn't the actual program we perhaps wanted to go into, it doesn't align the most with the job that we're perhaps getting through internships and co-ops, right? But I've always been curious as to, like, because this decision is sort of inevitable, right? Because you're in an immature age where you're not 100% sure what you actually want to do, so you just go for it. But switching programs, taking electives, and there's sacrifices of money, time, a lot of effort, right? Where you feel like you might perhaps do something else, and that is get co-ops and internships and build experience, build networks, right? That helps you land that job despite your program difference and your your educational background, right? And so that's why I wanted to ask Prashant that question of whether or not students should really look out for, obviously, if you have a set goal in mind of what you want to do in the future, obviously you should choose that program that well aligns with it. But if you're still not sure yet, there are a lot of people like Prashant and I who have journeyed through that way of not understanding what they wanted to do yet, discover new things, build that network, build that trust, and eventually good things will happen, right? So at the end of the day, I hope you guys still enjoyed what Prashant and I had to say about this podcast, about both product management, his experience at Microsoft, how we got into product management, and overall how our university experience has shaped who we are today. So thank you again for listening and tuning in to our podcast, and we will see you again, guys, soon. Thank you again.